The movie begins at a lively party, where we meet a teenager named Cole. He arrives at a party going in full swing. The boy looks distressed and calls his younger brother, Duckett, but to no avail. Cole barges inside, asking around if they have seen him, but most of the people do not know Duckett. In the midst of the bustling gathering, he sees a boy who knows where his brother is. The boy takes him there. He tells Cole that Duckett is behaving recklessly. And sure enough, Cole discovers Duckett barricaded in a room. Cole calls out to him to open the door, but when he doesn't, he breaks the door open, much to the party throwers' horror. Inside the room, Cole encounters a shirtless Duckett, who is muttering to himself. He has several ugly injuries on his back. The boy sees his brother, who is in a daze. He asks Cole if he can see them, referring to something unknown. He also tells his brother about some boy named Pop, but turns out the one he is talking about is dead. Cole does not seem surprised at his brother's actions or words. It looks as though these actions are mundane to him. Cole's instinct is to take his troubled brother back home. However, as he escorts him outside and looks around, he notices that the onlookers are busy recording the unsettling scene on their mobile phones. This angers Cole, and he raises his voice, urging them to stop their intrusive recording. But then, something unexpected happens. All of a sudden, Duckett launches an abrupt attack on Cole with a knife. He plunges the knife into his poor brother who was just protecting him. Cole falls down limp and everybody else flees to safety. In a daze, Duckett rushes outside and plunges the same knife into him, leaving everyone in disbelief. In the following scene, we shift our focus to Mia, a 17-year-old high school student. Mia is grappling with the painful 2-year anniversary of her mother's passing. She believes her mom perished due to an accidental overdose, and this has strained her relationship with her father, Max. As a result, Mia keeps her distance from him after the tragic incident. Max tries to bond with his daughter, but to no avail. Mia has just come back from paying respect to her mother. Back at home, Max comes over asking if she is feeling okay, but Mia only gives him curt responses. Right that moment, she gets a phone call and quickly picks it up to avoid talking further with her father. On the phone is Riley, who is the younger brother of her closest friend Jade. Jade was supposed to pick him up, but she didn't come, so he called Mia to come get him from his friend's place. She agrees and gets ready to go. In the meantime, Riley waits for Mia, accompanied by one of his friends. They pass their time gossiping about one of their classmates named Alex, who Riley thinks looks kind of elvish. His friend takes out a cigarette and teases him when he refuses to smoke. Shortly after, Mia pulls up and they are on their way. The two seem just like siblings, having fun on the road, singing. Following her mother's passing, Mia has found solace in staying at Jade's home, where the warmth of their family provides her with happiness and hope, especially during her toughest times. Thus, she has become quite close with her friend's family. All of a sudden, the atmosphere in the car changes and Mia stops the car. On the side of the road, they find a badly injured animal. The poor thing is whimpering in pain, taking his last breaths. Despite trying so hard, Mia is unable to put it out of its misery and decides to just drive off. Back at her friend's place, Mia and Riley see Jade busy on her phone. Turns out, she had silenced her calls and forgot to pick up Riley. The boy, after warning her sister that he would tell on her, goes back to his room. Now all alone, the two best friends spend time together. They surf online and come across a party advertised on social media, hosted by teenagers Haley and Joss. There are whispers that something eerie and mysterious might be happening at this gathering. Mia seems very interested and wants to join this party to see for herself, but Jade, Mia's steadfast friend, dismisses the rumors as a mere act. Mia does not buy her excuses and insists that they go. Finally, with no other option left, Jade decides to attend, primarily because her boyfriend, Daniel, will be there too. After that, Mia goes to oversee Riley doing his homework while Jade gets on a call with her boyfriend. Meanwhile, Jade's mother arrives. She warmly hugs Mia and apologizes for not being able to make it to her mother's remembrance ceremony. Night falls, and right after Jade's mother goes to sleep, the trio, including Jade's younger brother, Riley, sneak out, making their way to the party. Upon arriving at the party, they encounter Jade's boyfriend, Daniel, who happens to be Mia's former romantic partner. Although their romantic relationship is in the past, they've managed to remain friends over time. Strangely, nobody in the entire party seems to like Mia. They treat her like a creep and keep their distance. After a while, Haley and Joss introduce them to a rather peculiar game that's captured everyone's attention. The game is known as Talk to Me. The central attraction is a preserved hand from a medium, adorned with mysterious inscriptions. The rules of the game are quite straightforward. You hold the embalmed hand, light a candle, and utter the words, "Talk to me." Supposedly, this incantation summons a demon or spirit, but only the person holding the hand can see it. Then, that individual must utter the phrase, "I let you in," and in doing so, they willingly open themselves to possession by a demon. Joss asks who would volunteer. They initially want Riley to do it, but Mia boldly raises her hand and volunteers to be the one who gets possessed. Haley, the host of the game, cautions her that the connection must be severed within 90 seconds by blowing out the candle to prevent the spirits from binding themselves to the host. Mia takes the embalmed hand and starts the ritual, saying the words, "Talk to me." As she does, she witnesses the ghostly visage of an elderly man, which initially startles her. Jade is understandably hesitant about Mia continuing the game, but she regains her resolve with some encouragement from Haley. Mia proceeds to hold the hand once more, and this time, she is confronted by the unsettling image of a strange-looking woman. With Haley and everyone else's urging, she bravely utters the words, "I let you in," and as soon as she does, the spirit enters her body. Shortly after, Mia's demeanor takes a manic turn, and she begins speaking in a spooky and menacing voice. She points her finger toward Jade's younger brother, Riley, and ominously declares, "They really like you." To add to the eerie atmosphere, the door creaks open by itself and bangs shut. The lights keep flickering. When the clock ticks to 83 seconds, Joss attempts to pull Mia away from the embalmed hand, striving to meet the 90-second limit. However, the demon vehemently clings to the hand and terrifyingly screams at Riley to flee, or else the unknown entity would come for him. It's only after some struggle that Haley and Joss manage to sever Mia's connection with the spirit, even though it goes slightly beyond the 90-second mark. After the ritual is over, everyone expectantly looks at Mia, who takes a deep breath and exclaims that it was wonderful. The atmosphere becomes a little less tense, although we see Mia's eyes clouded over with some uncertainty, despite her claim of the ritual being wonderful. Later that night, back at their home, Riley tiptoes to Jade's room. It seems that the poor boy is scared. Although he does not voice his apprehension, Jade understands and turns him away. She reproaches him by saying that he is not 9 anymore. Dejected, he leaves without closing the door and enraging his sister. The poor boy approaches Mia and asks if he can hang out with her. The girl understands that he is scared because of the hand incident and invites him with open arms. They talk for a while and Riley, curiosity in his eyes, asks her how it felt to be possessed by the spirit. Mia, sporting a serene smile, replies that it was an incredible experience. She could hear, see, and feel everything, and it left her feeling quite exhilarated. They talk about Mia's mother and how she passed away due to an accidental sleeping pill. Although she tried to get help but couldn't, he tells Mia that he and Jade would always be there for her. Shortly after, the boy falls asleep and we see a strange hand brushing his cheek. The next day, we see Jade asking Haley to try out the hand one more time. Mia's description of the spirit possession intrigues Jade's boyfriend, Daniel, who decides he wants to give it a try. Haley agrees to fulfill Jade's request, and they plan to conduct the spirit summoning game at Jade's house that night. Jade's mom is suspicious that her daughter is throwing a party and thus warns them against it before going off to work. Night falls and all of them gather in Jade's house, eagerly awaiting Haley and Joss to initiate the game. Without hesitation, Daniel takes his place in front of the embalmed hand, repeating the words, "Talk to me, and I let you in," thereby inviting possession into his own being. What makes the situation even worse is that the entity, or whatever it is that possesses Daniel, starts to insult Jade, taking an explicit and sexual turn. He starts moaning and drags his body down to the floor. Jade's dog approaches him and he starts making out with the mud. As Daniel engages in highly inappropriate behavior, the scene leaves the other teens both disgusted and oddly fascinated. They quickly extinguish the candle, unable to tolerate the spectacle any longer. They escort the dog out of the room and carry on with the game. Despite their initial shock, the teens collectively decide to give it another shot on the same night, taking advantage of the fact that Jade's mom, Sue, is out for the evening. However, when Riley expresses his desire to participate, Jade firmly denies his request, deeming the game too perilous for someone his age. This refusal leads to an argument between Jade and Riley, and Jade exits the room briefly. Daniel goes after her, and the group inside decide to pack up the things and leave. However, before they can get a move on, Riley implores Mia to grant him a chance. Unable to refuse the little boy, Mia agrees, but with a condition. Riley will be allowed only 50 seconds, not the usual 90. Excited and determined, the boy follows the prescribed procedure. As he recites the required words, he sees a spirit before him and immediately stops. Feeling all hesitant and somewhat scared, he is unable to proceed, but soon with the encouragement from the people around, he continues. Haley sets the timer, and in no time, Riley becomes possessed. To everyone's astonishment, it becomes apparent that Riley is now under the influence of what appears to be Mia's deceased mother, and the situation takes an intense turn. Initially, Mia's mom speaks tenderly, expressing heartfelt sentiments and revealing how much she misses her daughter. As the 50-second mark approaches, the other teens are eager to sever the connection, but Mia pleads for more time to communicate with her supposed mother. As the remaining seconds on the timer tick away, the other teens make a frantic attempt to sever the connection. However, an abrupt and unsettling shift occurs. The spirit that had taken control of Riley's body turns violent, forcefully slamming his head onto the table. Scared, Mia jumps up to help the poor boy who is about to. Hearing the commotion, Jade and Daniel also rush in. Inside, they see a bloodied Riley who is about to smash his head onto a nearby cabinet. It takes a collective effort from Jade and the others to finally release the hand from Riley's possession. Riley's condition is dire, and it's evident that he requires urgent medical attention, so they rush him to the hospital. The entire group is left stunned, rendered speechless by the tragic turn of events. Their shock deepens when the police arrive to conduct an investigation. The weight of guilt bears down on Mia, who can't help but feel responsible for allowing Riley to participate in the game. In the meantime, Haley and Joss whisper about how to divert the attention of the police from the hand. It turns out that the scene at the beginning of the movie was related to the hand as well, and they got this artifact from none other than Duckett. Overwhelmed by remorse and the consequences of her actions, Mia decides to pack her belongings and return to her father's house. There, inside her room, she opens the bag and we see that she has brought the hand with herself. Later, her attempt to visit Riley in the hospital is met with rejection from both Jade and Sue, who hold her accountable for what happened to him. She thinks that Mia gave him some that made him this way. Sue sternly instructs Mia to leave, even going as far as threatening to involve the police if she returns. However, just as Mia is about to depart, she catches a glimpse of her mother's reflection in a window. The apparition of her mother beckons her to the bathroom. She cautiously enters the bathroom, but it seems empty. All of a sudden, one of the stall's door bangs shut. She approaches it with apprehension and calls out, asking if it is her mother. All of a sudden, Mia hears her mother's voice, pleading for help. She forcefully pushes the door open. Yet, when she peers inside, there is no one to be found. Overwhelmed with emotions, she rushes outside and bumps into Daniel. Quickly turning around, she takes to the fire exit. The boy sees tears streaking down her face and follows her, asking if she is okay. Following the unusual incident, Mia finds herself spending more time with her ex-boyfriend, Daniel, and it becomes quite evident that Mia still holds feelings for him. She invites him to stay over since he has no other place to go. Daniel is a bit reluctant but eventually comes over. Back at Mia's home, they discuss the incident. Daniel is skeptical about Riley's spirit being Mia's mother, but nevertheless, Mia believes her mother might be making an attempt to communicate with her. Shortly after, Daniel goes to sleep while Mia is up, watching videos of her mother, Rhea, on her mobile phone. After a while, she dozes off to sleep. In her dream, she sees herself and Daniel making out. In the background, she can hear someone scraping a wooden door. The scene shifts and she finds herself before the visage of her parents. Max is trying to give CPR to a struggling Rhea, but to no avail. She feels her fingers burning and looks down to see them all bloodied and covered in wood scraps. Thankfully, Mia is abruptly roused from her terrifying nightmare. To her shock, she witnesses the spirit of an elderly woman moving toward Daniel and seemingly attaching itself to his foot. Frightened and desperate, Mia screams for him to wake up. However, when Daniel awakens, he's met with a startling scene. It's Mia who's the one sucking on his foot. This bizarre turn of events leaves Daniel thoroughly unnerved, prompting him to abruptly leave the house. After he departs, Mia seems to have a panic attack. She slaps herself repeatedly and hits the door and walls of her room. Finally, with no other choice, she takes out the hand. Mia sets up a candle in an attempt to establish a connection with her mother's spirit. Eventually, her mother, Rhea, makes her presence known. Unable to contain her burning question any longer, Mia seeks to know whether her mother's overdose was accidental or a deliberate act. Her mother's spirit reassures her that it was indeed an accident and emphasizes that she would never have willingly left Mia. Furthermore, the spirit reveals that Riley is in distress and urgently needs help. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Jade is doing her utmost to assist Riley, who remains under the grip of possession. In a disturbing turn of events, Riley ends up biting her and then falls to the floor, striking his head against the wall in the bathroom. The malevolent force within him is hell-bent on causing, but fortunately, a doctor intervenes and manages to regain control of the situation. The next day, the group meets up again and Mia asks if they have been seeing stuff without the hand. All of them say that they haven't. Joss mentions that Duckett was also seeing stuff and he went kind of crazy afterward, going as far as hurting his brother and taking his own. Hearing this, Mia teams up with Daniel, Haley, and Joss as they embark on a mission to locate Cole, the same young man we encountered in the opening scene. It's revealed that Joss acquired the hand from Duckett, the troubled individual we observed earlier who inflicted harm. Upon meeting Cole, he places blame on Joss for constantly involving Duckett in the dangerous game involving the demonic hand. He blames Joss for not being a real friend and helping out Duckett before it was too late. Cole further informs them that the longer the spirits remain within Riley, the weaker they become. He suggests that their best course of action is to exercise patience. However, Mia, growing increasingly anxious for Riley, devises a plan. Her idea is to compel Riley to complete the game, as she believes they may have forgotten to blow out the candle during his initial possession. In an attempt to make this plan a reality, Mia heads to the hospital alongside Jade and Daniel, with hopes of prompting the spirits to repossess Riley and uncover a way to bring him back. They set up the equipment and try out the ritual. Unfortunately, this endeavor proves unsuccessful. Undeterred, Mia makes a bold decision to ask one of the spirits to locate Riley. This time, the spirit of a little girl appears who says the phrase that she lets her in and Mia enters the spirit world. It turns out that the hand works both ways. Her determination to rescue Riley takes center stage, as she ventures into the unknown to reunite with his lost soul. The spirit of the young girl leads her to Riley. Mia finally sees poor Riley, who is enduring the hands of numerous violent spirits in limbo. When Mia regains consciousness, she conveys to her friends that the relentless spirits are not ceasing their assault on Riley. Shaken to the core, Mia finally returns home with the hand. There, she sees Max, who calls out to her, expressing his desire to reveal the truth about her mother's demise. He apologizes for not disclosing this information sooner and shows her Rhea's demise note, which unequivocally confirms that her mother's passing was not accidental. Overwhelmed with grief and tears, Mia suddenly sees Rhea's spirit. Her mother tells her that it is not true. She says that she didn't write the note. Who is lying and who is telling the truth? No one knows. Troubled, she excuses herself and tells her father that she would be back shortly. As she retires to her room, her mother's spirit arrives and claims that the one she met just now is not her father, and that the spirits are imitating him. However, they are soon interrupted by the sound of her father banging on her door. Her mother's spirit tells her that the one outside is an evil spirit that is going to hurt her. Rhea also insists that the only way to save Riley is for the boy to pass away because the spirits would never let him go. In the meantime, we see the real Max downstairs, opening the bag that holds the hand. All of a sudden, the spirit imitating her father enters the room and violently attacks Mia. The real Max, hearing the commotion from the other side, rushes to check on her. Just as Mia attempts to defend herself against the attacking spirit, she tragically ends up accidentally harming her actual father, striking him in the neck with a pair of scissors. Later, Mia contacts Jade and instructs her to come to her house, claiming that she knows what to do. However, her true intention is to deceive Jade into leaving the hospital, while Mia herself heads to see Riley. Unfortunately, Jade's mother, Sue, arrives at the hospital before Jade can return. She apologizes for her previous harsh words and reassures Mia that she was never to blame for what transpired with Riley. Sue grants Mia a brief moment alone with him. Mia, who is now almost entirely under the influence of the malevolent spirits, becomes convinced that the only way to save Riley is by ending his suffering through a drastic measure. She attempts to use the same pair of scissors to carry out her plan but ultimately can't bring herself to go through with it. Meanwhile, Jade, who has come to Mia's house, can't find her anywhere but instead discovers her father in a critical condition. Jade quickly calls for an ambulance and informs her mother, alerting her to the fact that Mia might pose a danger to Riley. Sue rushes to Riley's hospital room, but her son has already left with Mia. Upon Jade's return to the hospital, she spots Mia pushing Riley in a wheelchair in the distance and immediately follows her. Mia decides to wheel Riley to the side of a busy highway, intent on ending him. In her hallucination, she envisions him as an old, decaying spirit. Rhea's spirit attempts to persuade Mia to push Riley into oncoming traffic, whispering that she is proud of her and that she is doing the right thing. Mia removes her hands from Riley's wheelchair, leading to an oncoming collision as a vehicle impacts an obstruction in the road. In the aftermath of the tumultuous events, Mia is shown lying in the middle of the road as though she had been struck by a car and severely injured. As she regains consciousness on the street, she observes Jade tending to Riley by the roadside. However, in a bewildering turn of events, Mia suddenly finds herself in a hospital and everything feels eerie and surreal. To her astonishment, Riley appears to have made a full recovery and is preparing to leave with Jade and Sue. Max, her father, also seems to have healed from his injuries. As Mia tries to follow them, she realizes that nobody can hear her desperate pleas. They all depart, disregarding her anguished cries and leaving her isolated and abandoned. In her desolation, Mia finds herself engulfed in a pitch-black void. Out of nowhere, she discerns a faint glimmer of light. Intrigued, she approaches it and discovers a candle, with a hand extending from it. Acting on impulse, she reaches out and takes the hand. In an instant, she is transported to a completely different place, finding herself at a party with the individual holding her hand staring at her in shock before muttering, "I let you in." This signifies that Mia has now become a part of the hand game, but with a significant twist. She is no longer among the living but has transitioned into the realm of spirits. Perhaps it was the accident at the road where Mia passed away.